Welcome back. You're tuned into Bazaar Morning Call. Well, the SGX Nifty suggesting a bit of a pullback, but we had a long weekend, right? So we need to catch up with the SGX Nifty. And if that's the case, then we're likely to open up in the green with a gain of close to 100 points. I'll be actually surprised if we see that big a gap up opening because we rallied towards the end of Friday's session as well. But plenty of stocks to discuss, and a lot of them reacting to their numbers. And to help us out with that, we're joined by Prakash Diwan. Hi, Prakash. Morning. Thanks so much for joining, and I hope you had a good weekend, Prakash. But plenty of numbers that did come in. Well, Kotak Mahindra Bank, what did you make of those numbers? And if you could tell us, among the private banks, what's your top pick now? First, the numbers and your top pick from there.
Good morning, Nigel. Yeah, I mean, I definitely enjoyed the long weekend, and I know there's a long time before that happens again in July or whatever. So, the Kotak Bank numbers was a very clear reflection on the fact that the bank has waited all these quarters, taken those steps back to kind of hold on to credit growth, making sure that it does, whenever it starts unleashing growth, it does it in a way which is stellar. And that's exactly what these numbers tell you. I mean, particularly the kind of return ratios that they have notched up, the return on assets, for example, is stupendous. Now, I don't know how strong that is as a trend that can kind of continue. But even if it does for the next 3 quarters, you probably have a FY24 which can probably see the bank grow at a phenomenal pace. Now, that all of that makes it complicated for the simple reason that we are at a cusp of a change in transition in the bank leadership come December of this year. So, a lot of people will want to kind of make sure that they weigh that against the kind of growth that the bank is kind of scorching growth at which it's probably likely to grow. It also makes it confusing to decide which bank to choose out of the private sector. The reason I say so is Axis came up with, again, a stellar set of numbers in spite of the entire hit on the Citi acquisition that they've taken on the P&L. The numbers still look pretty impressive. Their core profit is still growing at a very phenomenal rate. With the Citi acquisition, there could definitely be a lot of opportunities to improve margins, cross-sell, upsell, all of that. And then, of course, ICICI, there were no complaints either. So, and there you have HDFC Bank, which is also in the throes of transition, making itself into a much more bigger, far more efficient, scaled up kind of a operation. So it is kind of getting a bit confusing for private sector bank picking. But I would still stick to things that are already proven. I would want to see Kotak for another quarter and some sort of continue from where it has done on the last quarter. And while Axis digests the Citi acquisition and ICICI is already kind of looking at decent valuations, to be honest, it's not it's not cheaply valued. I would still stick to HDFC given the situation it is in among the private sector banks at this point.
Got it. Okay, that's the latest in the whole takeover battle between Minda Corp and Precol. So now Minda Corp has filed an application with the CCI to acquire up to 24.5% stake in Precol. If you remember, in the month of February, the company had announced acquiring 15.7% stake in Precol. It first started with Precol seeing about 4.5% equity change hands. And at that point in time, when we spoke to the Precol management, they said they are not aware of what's happening at the moment. They don't want to sell their stake. They don't want to they're completely committed to the business. But this is a very interesting takeover battle that has happened. And now, as time has passed, Minda has now filed an application to acquire up to 24.5% stake in Precol. Prakash Diwan, you've seen this entire story play out. And I think everyone was expecting it to happen, that Minda would eventually take over Precol. But what happens now with both the Minda Corp stock and Precol?
These kind of takeovers are never very smooth or very, amicable. Because I remember listening to the Precol management when it said, we are in no mood to kind of, let go of the business. And Minda kept on saying it's just a investment into the promising business that Precol offers. But, as the contours of the intent of the management, of the Minda management kind of gets to be unfolded, this will get to be a bit messy for the simple reason that they will have to probably pay a superior price. And the price has moved. Precol has already moved within this span of the announcement and today. And it would continue to move. But I'm not too sure whether Minda, as a stock, Minda would kind of, see any positive reaction from here on. because it needs allocating capital. I mean, we've seen recently what happened to GCPL, Godrej Consumer, and Raymond. There's so much that can go wrong in terms of pricing, in terms of what you pay. So my sense is Precall is the one that will probably benefit as a stock out of this entire transaction, because that's being coveted as a takeover candidate, and which means that there will be a price that will come into play which is superior to what it is right now.
But the action has already taken place, has it not? I mean, the stock is already up 85% in the last 12 months. And of course, Precall is a great asset. I mean, it's the second largest manufacturer in the world for instrument clusters and for fuel level sensors, both for 2- and 3-wheelers. So that part is taken. My question was, is there any incremental upside now, or do you think a lot of it is already in the price?
No, I think, Sonia, you could probably see some more move in Precall. From the time that this announcement was made or this event started off, it probably is not that entire 85%. 85%, if I remember correctly, would probably be dated from a 12-month period, which means that there is still more upside attributable to this call. And once the acquisition goes through and Minda has Precall assets in its portfolio and how it leverages that entire piece, then you could probably start seeing some value accretion come to the Minda side. But for the timing, I think Precall would probably see another 15-20% of an upside from here on also. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
All right. Prakash, just a quick word on the market itself, because I think we're at a juncture where we are almost at new highs. On the Bank Nifty, we're about 2% away. On the Nifty, we're about 4% away. And price action is kind of showing you what I would call a bit of a melt-up kind of a move. Very sudden, sharp rise, easily coming. The question, though, is, okay, new high may come, but is this smelling like the start of a bigger move from here? Or you think that is unlikely? Because consider this evidence on the other side. You have a situation where the QE is still on, right? Almost $100 billion a month in terms of the Fed balance sheet. There is perhaps one more hike coming out of the US. And you look at the auto sales numbers, some of the other high-frequency indicators are also showing some moderation in terms of growth, GST numbers notwithstanding. What's your sense, Prakash? The question is it a bigger move? Because you may you may make a new high, but what beyond that? Go on.
Yeah, Prashant. So it's quite a complex situation that we face ourselves with. Globally, I don't think there's anything that's receded in terms of the risk of a recession, particularly in the US. And as I can make out from people I speak to in the US, the recession is actually underway. It probably is much softer than what most people anticipated. And it will probably be much longer drawn because of the softness. But it is very clearly there. And then we've seen that in some of the numbers, particularly coming from the IT pack and all. Back home, if you see, the GST numbers, of course, there's lots more that happens in the month of March. March end is definitely something which has a lot of other things adding to it. So you probably factor that in. But the robustness in spending on the upper end of the consumption curve, that is something which is not coming down at all. And that means it's compensating for the lack of demand on the mass side, right? So, and that's exactly why you might have two-wheelers struggling, but you have the BMWs and the Mercs of the world doing so well. So that's precisely where we are. And if you look at the markets, my sense is the China factor is completely taken a backseat. What happened in November, December in terms of the expectation of reopening, money going there, that money is not really started working for it. So I think India is going to be much more attractive from a FI inflow perspective for the next few quarters, and that's going to change things dramatically.
Okay, I also want your thoughts on Ramkrishna Forgings, but I'll just get the management in first to give us some commentary. It's the first corporate